Board of Education is going to try to figure out how to put some more guardrails to stop people from using their school voucher money for things like dune buggies or trips to Disneyland or Rolex watches or vasectomy test kits. Joe, did you bing that? Did you find anything on the cost on that?
Yeah, I can get you a 2-pack for under $70.
Oh, that's like a buy one, get one free. And considering the current rules around the ESAs, if Tom Horn will rubber stamp anything under $2,000, I can order 20 plus of those, and they won't even notice, right?
Based on what Superintendent of Public Instruction has said, yeah.
And then, but he did say that then we'll take a look at it later, and if something stands out, then we'll investigate.
So, but does that mean they'll get the funds back, or just that they'll know fraud was committed?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. They can try to claw the dollars back and say that's ineligible, and so you can't spend your dollars on that.
But they already gave you the money, and you already spent it.
Right. So how do you get it back?
I assume they'd have to take you to court.
Well, you ask nicely to start with.
Oh.
Or maybe you withhold it from next year. If your kid's not a senior, then you could potentially withhold it. Although, I don't know, maybe it was for the kid, for their health class or something.
Oh.
Senior year. I don't know. I don't have any idea. But I do know that there are some other issues. Even the State Board of Education is trying to put new guardrails on the ESA program. And it's an interesting story that AZ Central had. There's a line in there. It says an updated handbook would prohibit ESA recipients from reselling items purchased with ESA funding. Although there's no way for the department to find out whether this is happening unless someone reports it. They said it's just a moral reminder. In other words, you could go buy your Rolex, and then you could flip it. You could sell it on eBay, which is money laundering.
Oh, I'm great at flipping things, though. You let me know what you need flipped. I gotcha.
Yeah. And all you have to do is claim you've got a kid or two that you're homeschooling, and you're off to the races.
Well, and that's our why today, is why is the ESA program so overrun by fraud? And I think you've kind of hit on two of the big ones, kind of beating around the bush a little bit. But reason number one, I would say, is the lack of guardrails that are so clearly in place. And reason number two, I would say, is the Superintendent of Public Instruction himself telling people that if you go out and spend less than $2,000 on something, we're basically going to rubber stamp it, and then we'll try to figure it out down the road. That invites more fraud.
So we did reach out to the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Horn. We haven't heard back from him specifically, although from his office they said he would like to come on the show again, and he has been on the show. And if you'll recall, the last time that Tom Horn was on with us, I don't think he and I agreed on anything. And I've said this before. Didn't agree with anything with that guy, but I really enjoyed having him in the studio. I thought he was a really great guest to have in, and I thought that the discourse we had was exactly as the founders intended. Disagree without being disagreeable, right? So I got to give him credit for that, and I look forward to him being in here again. When we talk about the lack of guardrails, if we get in here, if we go back even a little bit further, does it seem to you that this legislation was not really thought out very well when it was first developed? I mean, there was this push to, we got to get the voucher program. We want to be on the front end of school vouchers. We want to be the state that sets the example, and we want to make sure that everyone has this opportunity to use the vouchers, and this is going to be a great deal, and we're going to show everybody how great it works. But they didn't really think about unintended consequences or the human aspect, I suppose. And what do we know about people? People are terrible at being honest if they can get something out of it.
Yeah,
we really are.
They'll take advantage of systems, sure.
Yes. Yeah, of course they will. And look, the more you have given to you, the more you want to take advantage of it. You've probably heard people have debates about economic systems, and communism does not work. Absolute disaster. And why? Because eventually somebody takes everybody else's money. Somebody doesn't put the work in, and somebody else, and we saw this in Russia where the oligarchs ended up profiting and everybody else suffered, right? That's because somebody's taking advantage of the system. They figured out how to game the system. And I think in this case, I'm not saying it's communism. That's not my point. My point is that if there's a system that can be gamed and you stand to benefit from the game, you will figure out a way to game the system. And that's, I think, exactly what happened. And in many cases, the legislature kind of rolled this out. The Department of Education rolled it out without thinking through how can scumbags take advantage of this.
Isn't this kind of like, you're going to love this, Chris, kind of like fantasy sports, like fantasy baseball, fantasy football? Most people in the league, whether it's 10 people, 12 people, most people are well-intentioned. But most leagues, you get that one guy or gal.
Travis.
Who, I had a Travis too.
Did you have a Travis?
I did have a Travis. But they, actually ours, Brian was the worst.
Brian.
Brian and Travis.
Yep.
They ruin it for everybody. And then once Brian and Travis start doing it, then half the dang league or more is, well, if they do it, then why can't I do this? And then all bets are off at that point.
Yeah, it turns into a real mess.
Yeah.
I think also when it comes to the ESAs, you have people that go, well, they gave me money. It's mine now. It's free money. It's my money. It's my taxes. Now they're giving it back, and now I can use it however I want. Now, where this gets a little bit fuzzy is that in large part, the easiest way to take advantage of this system is if you're homeschooling. And I think that's probably where we're seeing the majority of the people that are running afoul. And what happens is if you go to a public school, the money goes to the public school. And charter schools are public schools. Money goes to the public school. If you go to a private school, you got to pay the tuition. So even if you pay the tuition, you turn in your receipt for reimbursement, that's going to a school, right? It's the homeschoolers that are basically, they're turning in receipts, and it doesn't have to be passed on anywhere else, right? So the homeschoolers are the places where you go, I got $8,000. Last year I had to teach my kids alone. Now I've got an ESA program. I didn't have any help in the past. Now I've got help. I've got this ESA program, and they gave me a check for $8,000. That's more than I planned on having. Now I can use this for trampolines, new tires, dune buggies, whatever it is. The family looks at it and goes, that's our money. We paid our taxes in. They're giving us our money back for education, but we're providing the education, so the money should be ours to be able to use as we wish. That's not the intention. And now they're looking at putting in some guardrails to say, no, you can't just go spend that money on whatever. Although, playground equipment used to be prohibited. Now it's allowed. You can spend $2,500 per kid on playground equipment. So
great.
That's a pretty nice swing set that kid is getting for $2,500.
Yeah, no kidding. Isn't a kickball good enough? Like, how much playground equipment do you need?
I don't know. When I was growing up, I had one of those gross rusty steel swing sets, and I think the rusty steel swing sets was the cause for so many tetanus shots for millions of kids across the country back in the 80s. I think that was the case. Yeah.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe, and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.